there's no question that a huge stimulus that includes a big chunk of new government spending and also big new tax cuts needs to be part of what we do to get through the next couple of years. But after that, and we will reach the far side of this, this downturn, there's just no question. It's really, it's pure math that taxes will rise as a share of the economy, as a share of GDP over the next decade. Doesn't matter who's in power. In fact, in the book, I quote a couple of John McCain's top economic advisors who say there's no question that taxes will go up because we're going into the baby boomers' retirement right now, and that means, you know, as 76 million baby boomers hit their rocking chairs, we're doubling the amount of people on Social Security and Medicare. There's already $50 trillion in unfunded liabilities in these programs, and there's just no way the math works at current levels of taxation. So people in both parties behind closed doors will tell you this, but no one will utter it publicly. One of the points I'm trying to make with the book is, even though no one would really want this, I mean, no one wants taxes to go up, but they're going to. I mean, that's inevitable, and the good news is we're not going to become France or Sweden. The economy's still going to thrive, and in fact, as I try to do with the research, when you look at the history of taxes and spending as a share of the economy, we've seen that as civilizations and societies get more modern and wealthier, taxes and spending have gone up as a share of GDP, and the economy is fine. So it's unutterable now, but the idea that taxes hurt the economy and are too high is a dead idea, and the fact that we can't have the honest discussion about it stops us from having the debate we really need, which is, given that taxes are going up inevitably over the next decade, what's the best way to do that for the economy? You know, there are good ways and bad ways to do this, and I think it means we need to shift our tax system away from taxing payrolls and corporations, which is where a lot of our taxes come from now, and tax things like dirty energy and consumption, which would help us meet environmental goals, national security goals, and be better for the economy in general. Everything's a function of our history, and at certain times, I mean, FDR created the payroll tax as part of paying for Social Security. That developed a life of its own. It started very small. If you look at the history, now it takes 12.5% and 15% if you include the Medicare part out of both the employer and the employee. But back in FDR's day, and then well into the 50s and 60s, it was only around 2% of payroll. So politicians found it was the kind of thing people didn't notice much. You could ratchet it up a little bit to increase benefits. But now we're at a point where actually most families pay more in payroll taxes than they do in income taxes, and it's crazy because it's a job-killing tax. You know, it's not sensible for a host of reasons, but what's sensible doesn't often end up becoming what seems politically possible until enough folks start talking differently in ways that change our thinking and then change what we do. Taxes are going to go up, and if Republicans are in power when all the boomers are hitting the fan, they'll find a way to raise taxes and try and call it something else, or more likely, as usually happens, we get both parties to get together in the dark of night, jump off the cliff together. But I think it's one of those situations where when you can see what has to happen in terms of just the sheer numbers and the logic of it, because there's such a stake that the Republican Party has in their tax cut mantra, because it's been so effective politically for almost 30 years since Reagan, they don't want to give it up. Democrats, because they know how powerful the tax cut mantra is, and because they know, as you said, that average families feel squeezed and want to hear that we're going to get more of our money back, they want to be for tax cuts too. This is all going to collide with reality at some point in the next 5 or 10 years, and it's hard to know exactly how it'll get resolved, except that the one thing is sure is that taxes will rise. There's one idea in the book that I float from a conservative economist, Kevin Hassett at the American Enterprise Institute, who said, who knows? Taxes are going up and knows there are better ways to do it than dumber ways for the economy. And he said what we really could use is a Federal Reserve of taxation, where, which would be staffed, in his view, by, economists like himself, and where the politicians would say, look, we need taxes, because the boomers are retiring, taxes are going to have to go from 18% of GDP where they are today up to 23 or 24, and you politicians tell us what the level is, and then we'll design a tax system that optimizes for the economy, does the least damage to the economy, given how much money you need to hit. Now that's kind of a platonic ideal, will never happen in the real world, but it's a useful way of thinking about the fact that there are better ways to raise the money we need to do the things as a country that we want to do. And if we could get that conversation going, we'd be better off.